throughout the whole entire Caribbean. Somehow, some way, we work super hard. I mean, you could work 50 hours a week. You could work 100 hours a week. You work 150 hours a week if you wanted to, if it was possible. Somehow, some way, the majority of people in the Caribbean still end up being broke. Don't make no sense. We've learned to get things done exactly how we've been told our whole entire life. But then at the end of it, 10, 20, 30 years later, we're left with nothing. We're left owning nothing. But we need to change our mentalities away from, I am just going to stay in survival for 40 years, to I am going to thrive for 40 years. Very interesting one tonight. And I think it stems from something that a lot of times we talk about it, but we don't talk about it enough. Now, you ever wonder how throughout the whole entire Caribbean, we work so hard, but somehow, some way, we find our ways being broke, straight up. I mean, you could work as hard as you want. You could work 50 hours in a day if you could. And somehow, some way, you've been doing it for years. And you see people all around us. They work hard for years. We in a culture of working hard, but we're not in a culture of being paid. And today, I kind of want to sit back a little bit and address not just what the reality is about that, but then how do we make this shift? Ever wonder why a lot of times we see it throughout the whole entire Caribbean? Somehow, some way, we work super hard. I mean, you could work 50 hours a week. You could work 100 hours a week. You work 150 hours a week if you wanted to, if it was possible. And somehow, some way, the majority of people in the Caribbean still end up being broke. It don't make no sense. So we're gonna talk about a little bit of the reality behind the things that keep us down in the Caribbean, the things that don't allow us to get past where we need to get past, or don't allow us to get to where we need to get to, and then the shift that we need to make in order to get the results that we want, right? So you find that we come from a culture where we've learned to work hard. We've learned to do what we need to do. We've learned to be on point. We've learned to get things done exactly how we've been told our whole entire life. But then at the end of it, 10, 20, 30 years later, we're left with nothing. We're left owning nothing. We're left trying to figure it out, or pushing our own internal family survival problems back onto the next generation that's coming. And a big part of this that is not talked about in our environment is, like, you know, it starts from early. It starts from when we're 18, when we're 19, we get out into the job force, so we go off to college or whatever it may be. But we get into the cycle, and it doesn't take us anywhere. We're just spinning and spinning and spinning and trying to find ground, but we just end up surviving. And so I want to talk about the reality behind it, right? The biggest reality, the first thing is, early on, you get shoved in your face car loans, credit card, borrowing money, all these different things we get shoved in our face is the first thing that is happening that takes us backwards, right? I want to break down to people the problem with borrowing money, the problem with even lending money, and little tips and tricks that you could do to avoid that, right? So let's just say you end up in a situation where, you know, you get offered a loan. Somebody says, all right, well, you want a car, you don't have a car, you can't get to and from, you know, new generation, everybody want to look good. Everybody want their own car. They want to move around when they can. They don't want to catch no bus. They don't want to ride public transport, none of that. So that must sound good to somebody. All right, well, I got this opportunity now to get into a car loan. They're going to let you pay it weekly now. Most banks in the Caribbean, they let you pay that weekly. So it sounds good. Okay, I make this amount of money. I can afford this loan every single week. You're going to be paying that for years, right? So, all right, let's just say you get a car loan for, you know, $15,000 to buy a car or something, right? Get a car you want, driving around smooth, you make you straight. Now what? You got this car, you're paying weekly on it. They're charging you $70, $80, $90 a week. So you're paying $360 a month. It sounds good, but now you got to pay years and years, 10 years. You pay back maybe about $23,000, $24,000, and you borrow it for $15,000. The car depreciating, you losing money. And we get into these traps early on. We don't understand, how do I avoid this? How do I get away from this? Same thing with loans. Hey, you walk into the bank one day, you're doing a regular transaction, you're trying to be a regular person, trying to get through. Next thing you know, somebody come up to you, hey, you could get a loan today. You know, you could walk away with $6,500 in cash today. What's the interest on that? What am I paying? The bank want to make money off of me. How much money am I going to pay in this situation in order to now I got to pay the $6,500 back? What does that look like? I mean, it sounds good today, but then now you set back so much more. You set back the interest you got to pay on that, and you're going to spend that $6,500 that you didn't even have. Now you back in this trap that didn't make sense in the first place. If you can't afford it, you shouldn't be doing it. But no one's sitting there telling us, all right, this is the way to go about dealing with this thing. This is how you could avoid this, not. This is how you could actually invest money or save money or make more money. We're just caught up on, okay, how could you spend the money? Spending. One of the big things that I always say is like, there's only two things you do with your money. You could spend it and invest it. Savings don't count. Saving is literally just having your money liquid and accessible to you at the cost of inflation, right? It's being able to open up an app and say, you know what? I see $1,000. I see $500 here. I could go and withdraw this right now. That's all savings is, right? But the reality behind it is you're still losing money because inflation is killing us in the Caribbean. It don't make a difference because the money ain't making no money. The banks don't give us nothing. No matter where you are in the Caribbean, the bank's not giving you anything. 2%, 3% on your money is not beating inflation. So you have a situation where every single person is like, all right, well, I gotta go and save my money. I don't gotta invest it. But realistically, if you got your money liquid and accessible, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna end up spending it regardless. As soon as you see money, as soon as you got money somewhere, our culture, consumerism, everything in the world is built for us to spend that money, not to invest it. It takes a strong few to stay consistent and stay consistently investing their money. But what everybody's surviving, like we're talking about survival, right? What everybody's surviving, you're gonna be in a situation where you getting a loan, you going back to the bank, you need the bank to do this, you need a next loan to do, and then now we getting into loans, and now we getting into debt. And for what? We already in survival mode. And that's a part of the reality. You got people working their whole entire lives. I mean, a mortgage, a home is a horrible investment, but a mortgage is a second job. So when you're not working your first job, you're working half your job or taxes going towards paying the bank back because you're working to pay that mortgage. You're working to survive to pay that mortgage back for the next 30 years. That's a second job. And we don't understand. I mean, in no regard, we don't have the hey, all right, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't go that route. Maybe I should go over here. Maybe I should invest my money. Maybe instead of me building a home for myself or a house for myself, my first investment should be an investment property if I can get a loan. Like, maybe I should do these things over here because, you know, it's the most financial sound decision that I can make for myself. But once again, we don't have these conversations, and that's the second thing. So the first thing is we get shoved all these things, and we see our parents going through it, and we're not having money conversations at the table. Most people in the Caribbean ain't never had a conversation about money at the table. We ain't never sit down. Our parents ain't never said, hey, let's talk about money tonight. Never. That ain't happening. It's always gonna be, all right, well, either I'm broke, I ain't got it. That ain't happening. You don't even worry about that. I ain't buying you that. It's a lot of what I can't do as parents or our younger generation. Not necessarily here's the situation, here's why, here's how we avoid, here's how you can do different. Here's how I can invest for you. Here's how we can change this narrative and change this reality, right? It's never that. It's more, no, you can't. We can't. Not happening. Get out my face. You know what I'm saying? Go in your room. I ain't trying to hear that. And so that brings me into the second thing. We get pushed into this culture. We get pushed into this environment where we're consistently taking on loans, credit cards, a bunch of things that we don't even understand because we never get taught about it. Our systems, I don't know. I can speak about the system I've been to, ain't nobody ever explained a credit card to me broken down so I understand it. That'd be great to learn the math, right? They give you a bunch of papers, you sign them, and now you got a bunch of credit that you can't afford. It don't make sense. But a big part of that is because we don't have the proper financial literacy, and we don't understand or learn about investing while we are in school. Nobody is pushing that narrative. We're pushing to pass these exams, get these good grades, go to college, get a good job, survive, right? We're pushing and trained into the survival thing. We're not pushed into, oh, here's how you excel. Here's how you do this. Here's how you invest for your future. Here's how you get yourself ahead. None of that. No. God forbid somebody raise their hand in class and say, hey, how do I make $1 million? Hey, like, I ain't know. Go work hard. That's what we get told. And some aspects of that is true, you know. I mean, you look at it, you say, all right, well, maybe I should be working hard. Maybe I should be figuring it out. Maybe I should, go down that path where I get very, very much so educated. But we spend a lot of time telling our young people in the Caribbean to get overly educated but not be overly successful. It's two separate things, right? You could go get your PhD and then now you can't find a job because you're overqualified and then underpaid once again. But you could go and do that and then never had job experience and nobody cares to have you there versus the person that was working in the business from day one. So a lot of times too, we be sending the wrong messages. We don't really understand, and we get the wrong message from our own parents. So when I watch mommy and daddy, I look at my parents. My dad worked 46 years for an institution, same institution, his whole life. And when you watch mom and dad, work their whole entire life, grandparents work their whole entire life, and they stayed loyal to an institution, just chipping up every single increment. I'm going to get a salary raise. I'm going to get a salary raise. Nothing to change life, because guess what? If you survive, and if you're in survival mode and somebody give you $2,000, $3,000 more a year, it's not going to change your life. You're still in the same survival mode. You're still in the same problems. Those are going into interest payments and mortgage. Those are going into little small extra things like grocery bills, and that money's gone. If somebody gives you a $10,000 raise, same thing. It sounds good because it keeps you there, but it doesn't change you or your environment or your future generations unless you change it. And so a lot of times we get caught up in this thing of, I'm seeing this thing. I'm seeing my grandparents do things this way. I see my parents do things this way, but I don't understand it. I don't understand why my parents is just surviving the whole entire time. I don't understand why, I'm walking down this road. I see my parents, they know these people, but they work for them for 30 years, 40 years. They change their attitudes. They change this just to be this person I don't even know them to be because that's their boss or, that's somebody they work with. You don't understand it. You don't understand the culture of it as a kid. We come out of school, we come out of these environments, and then now all we understand and all we know is go and work a job, stay there 40 years, stay there 50 years. And an even bigger problem that we have in the Caribbean, throughout the whole entire Caribbean, is a lot of people, a lot of locals, whether you're from any Caribbean island, a lot of times we end up working for foreigners. So imagine a foreigner comes in, starts a company, and a lot of the big institutions or places, not everywhere throughout the Caribbean, but it's saying tourism, etc. A lot of times it's foreign led. So you now have, places in Barbados that are owned by foreigners. You have places in Bahamas, same thing. You have places in Jamaica, same thing. And then we give our whole entire devotion to somebody that's looking to take money back to their country. Not keep it in the Caribbean, not keep it local, but saying, okay, how can I take this back to the US, to China, to anywhere else? You know what I'm saying? We get involved in this, and it's just a loop, just a constant loop, right? And I know that if we were to solve that issue, where we have in our environments people that say, all right, well, I'm not going to just work somewhere for 40 years. I'm going to figure out how I can give back, how I can start my own, how I can build from my situation, how I can make the difference in my environment, for my kids, for my future generations, we'd be able to change a lot. But because we spend a lot of time saying, all right, well, I'm taking the loans, I'm taking the mortgage, I'm taking this, I'm taking that because I got no other choice. Now I'm stuck in debt. Now I'm stuck drowning. Now I'm stuck surviving. And when you're stuck surviving, you're not getting nowhere. You moving 100 miles per hour, but you going backwards. And the problem is that most of us can't see it because we've been conditioned not to. We've been conditioned to accept bad treatment. We've been conditioned to stay in our environments and just say, all right, well, I don't know where the next step or the first step is. I don't know how to get started with my own thing. I don't know the process for XYZ because we don't even have that in our minds, in our path, because we've been pushed down a path that's being designed for us all throughout the Caribbean from years ago, from generations ago. Hey, this is your path. You go and work here. This is what your parents do. You go and do this. And it's nothing wrong with having a job. There's nothing wrong with climbing up a ladder. There's something wrong when you do that and you have to do it in survival mode for years, your whole entire life. You could go and work a job. As a matter of fact, you go work any job you want to. You can go and start a business. You can do whatever you want to do. The problem then is if you're doing that while hating who you are, not recognizing your own self, showing up every single day with a smile on your face, but a frown in your mind, and just pushing through and surviving, you are not doing your life properly. You're moving backwards. You're hurting your own self long term, and in some aspects you're now hurting your kids, your future generation, the people around you, because you're not ever getting to be your own self. You're not happy for you. You're not happy for your own environment. And so if people were to say, okay, I'm going to change this situation. I'm going to change how I wake up. I move into this environment. I look out and say, all right, well, it's time for me to not necessarily walk away from my job, but it's time for me to make an extra income. It's time for me to leverage my time. It's time for me to enjoy life more. It's time for me to be able to give back to others because I can. And I need to build the system that allows me to do so. And what that looks like essentially is, okay, I now need to figure out, all right, what's my framework? How am I going to be realistic with myself? What am I working with right now? These are my bills. I got X amount monthly bills. I need to now find a way to break out of this system. I need to do the things that I wasn't able to do before. So if you have loans, understand, if you have 3-4 loans, there's calculators that you can use, right? And there's equations that you can use, and also AI now, to figure out which loan should I pay off first, based on the term, how long you have the loan for, the interest, and the amount that you're paying on the loan on a monthly basis. You need to figure out which loan you need to get out of the way first. So what is your worst debt that you're in? How do I service my really bad debt before the rest of my bad debt? Same thing with if you got a car loan or credit card, understanding how to pay it properly, understanding the situation that you're in. It may be a lot easier to get out of it or sell that, get a cheaper car and get a loan for that, because they will give you the loan for it if you've been paying on your larger vehicle, making sure that you don't have any prepayment penalties or anything like that in your loans. Understanding these things, reading through the documents that you get, not jumping on, once again, the first bank. But if you're going to get a car loan, saying, hey, how do I go to the bank and then go to this next bank and go to the other bank and get the lowest interest rate possible? If you are going to get it, you might as well pay the cheapest for it. And once again, like I said, it comes down to a thing of understanding the financial literacy aspect of things. Investing, starting small. Maybe you're investing $20 a week. Maybe you're investing $10 a week, but you're investing, not saving. Because when you're saving, you're just saving up. Hey, I want to buy a vehicle. I want to buy this new BMW or whatever it may be. I'm going to save $30,000, $40,000 to get it. Once you save that $40,000 in cash, as soon as you get 40 grand, you're just gonna go back to zero. You can't afford if the wheel comes off, if the tire breaks. You can't afford anything at all. You can't afford to do that. You can't afford to, literally you can't afford to blink properly, because all you have done is gone from top of the mountain back to the bottom in milliseconds. Makes no sense being in a situation where you're saving up to buy something and then you just cancel your whole entire journey. If it took 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. Now, the only sense it makes saving up or investing towards something is if you're investing towards a business. You're investing towards a passive income or an income producing asset for yourself. If you're investing towards investment property. If you're investing towards something that's gonna now produce for you, so that you don't have to worry about anything. But if you're focused on, all right, well, how do I make money to go and buy this thing, or to go on this trip, or to go wherever? It's not as worse as if you're taking a loan to go on a trip or buy a car, but it's just as bad, because now you're putting yourself in a situation where, all right, I'm going here and then I'm coming back to zero. The loan starts you at zero and then you go even more down. But realistically, you're taking away from your own self. You're taking away from your own future. It's like somebody said to me before, and it was an interesting perspective when I was much younger. If you took a used car and it cost 10 grand, for example, and I will calculate it right now. If you took a used car and you literally said a used car was $10,000, right? And you never touch it. You never let it move anytime after that. It's just $10,000. You contributed once and you let the $10,000 sit for 40 years. You never touch it. That right there is the difference between you having $500,000 in 40 years. Just $10,000 once, you never touch it. You just invested in, say, the S&P 500. That's $500,000 that you never have to touch it again. You never have to look at it. You never have to buy anything else. You never have to do anything else. You just let it compound every single year. And that is the difference between a life-changing moment. But somehow, some way, we get all these other things in our head, and we don't understand, hey, the simple things, like if I was just to invest this once, instead of me buying a used car, I don't need a car right now. Maybe I'll buy a used car when I get $20,000 and I put $10,000 towards the investment, so that in 40 years I got $500,000 sitting somewhere. We need to have these thought processes in our mind, because once again, as I will always say, Caribbean people are some of the most talented people in the world. We got the hustle, we got the finesse, we got everything, we got the drive, we understand, we know how to get things working, we know how to make things shake, we know how to get through. No matter what it is, somehow, some way we're gonna make a way, right? But we need to change our mentalities away from, I am just gonna stay in survival for 40 years, to I am gonna thrive for 40 years. I'm gonna think different. I am going to take the risk. I'm going to not be in fear. I'm going to understand financial literacy. I'm investing. I'm going to move away saving and just staying in this whole entire expensive inflation in our inflationary environments and economies. That's what we have. We import a lot of things. We need US currencies and all this different factors in these different economies. And so if we start to think different, if we start to look at it different, you start to walk into a different solution, a different path. Say, all right, well, I'm going to figure out how to export my skills. I'm going to get high income value skills, and I'm going to just change my whole entire situation. I'm just going to move away from this. I'm not going to stress at all. I'm going to now find a way to make a way. I'm going to now shift my mentality. I'm going to now invest $20 a week. I'm going to now learn these skills, so that 2-3 hours of the day, I'm going to invest this time into making the skill either better or finding a way to make money from the skill. If we just change those small little things, I'm going to now have a conversation with my kids at the table. I'm going to speak about money to my family. I'm going to speak about money to my kids, right? I'm going to have these conversations. I'm going to find a book on financial literacy and pass it down to my kids. I'm going to take my habits, even if I'm surviving, and show my kids that they can survive different. They can thrive. I survived 40 years, so you don't have to, so you can build a life that you want. If we can take those small things and somehow push it into a bigger vision for our generations, our families, our future, we would be able to put ourselves in a completely different boat. We will not be holding on to a plank somewhere far off in the ocean. We'd be somewhere sitting on a yacht, cruising across, trying to find the next island, instead of surviving and trying to just make it to land in general. We've watched our parents survive. We've watched our grandparents survive and go through hard times. Why be another generation of just survivors? Be a generation, be a group, be a community of people that say, hey, how can I make a difference for me? How can I make a difference for you? How can I make a difference for y'all? And a big part of it comes from educating, from financial literacy and investing. Another big part of it comes from investing in your own self, your own personal excellence, your own willingness to be great, your own willingness to understand other skills that you can use or that attach to your strength. And it also comes from you saying, okay, Grammy do that, mom and dad do that, but I gonna do different. I gonna make sure that I straight, that I ain't worrying about what the banks want me to know or what school ain't tell me. I'm gonna learn for me. I'm gonna make the difference for myself. I'm gonna find a way and I'm gonna make it through. And if we take that mentality, if we grab that up, we say, all right, I'm gonna be the one. It starts with you. It don't start with nobody else. It starts with you picking up, hey, all right, today is the day. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna work on this today. I'm gonna work on this skill tomorrow. I'm gonna have this conversation with my parents. I'm gonna ask them questions. I'm gonna learn from their mistakes. You got your grandparents around you. Learn from their mistakes. If you got your parents around you, learn from their mistakes. If you got siblings around you that are older than you, learn from their mistakes. Even if the sibling younger than you, ask questions. Just have conversations. Figure out things that will make your situation or your path different. Give yourself better odds. Make the move that allows you to shift into a lane where you're like, all right, guess what? I may not make $1 million in the next 10 years, but I can make $1 million 40 years from now. I'm gonna stay consistent. I know I have a path. I have a plan. Create a plan. Create a wealth plan. Create a wealth path for yourself. Or even if you don't do it for you, create it for your kids. Okay, how do I work? If I gotta survive the next 40 years, how do I make sure that when I pass on to John there, John straight? John ain't got nothing to worry about. John chilling. And once you figure out how to do that, once you figure out how to go to the next stage, how to be able to shift into, okay, I'm gonna be successful and this family's gonna be successful because we're gonna do all these things, we're gonna be in a better environment. And as I will always say, personal excellence is probably the best thing that you could ever achieve in your life. And it's not something that you could even achieve. It's something that's constant. You're always constantly growing. You always have to be better than you. Every single day you got to show up and be better than you. And if you could become the person, that one person looks up to and says, you know what, I understand, looking at that person, I need to be better than myself every single day. We now start to create better communities where people are self-motivated to be in a better situation, to understand the situation differently, to hustle, to grow into a better situation, to pour and give into others, to push them to be in a better situation. And that's what the world should be about. That's what communities, that's what we grow up around. You know, my grandmother, Jamaican, I watch her house people her whole entire life, feed people her whole entire life when she couldn't afford it. And she poured into others on a daily basis. You can come in our yard for any fruit you could imagine, any tree you want to go in, she will support it. She will, hey, you need this, you need that. She'll make sure you leave it more than you even take out of the yard. And that same mentality, right? Where she was able to smile, survive, struggle, but still give. If we was to give in terms of focusing on having communication and conversations about financial literacy, focus on personal excellence, focus on talking about skills or things that allow us to make more money or bring more money back to our environments. If we just took some time to focus on that, we'd be straight. We would be straight. So, once again, take the time to focus on your own greatness, your own personal excellence. Take the time, focus on financial literacy, investing, understanding your own self, your own situation, your own wealth, where you want to be. Set your own goals for your own life. And you could be straight.